ever pondered about the true essence of freedom and liberation? It's a concept that's been explored in countless ways, embodying different meanings to different people. Yet, few narratives capture it as profoundly as the Book of Exodus. This ancient text, part of the biblical canon, weaves a story rife with themes of liberation and freedom at its core. It's a tale that charts a course from oppression to deliverance. Today we delve into the Book of Exodus, a tale of struggle, faith, and ultimately freedom. The Book of Exodus begins with the Israelites living under harsh conditions in Egypt. Their lives are filled with sweat, dust, and the relentless cruelty of their Egyptian overseers. For generations, the Israelites have toiled under the unyielding Egyptian sun, building mighty cities and monuments for Pharaoh. Their lives are a testament to the harsh reality of slavery, a life devoid of freedom, choice, and dignity. In the midst of this suffering, a beacon of hope is born: Moses. His birth is a testament to his mother's courage and resourcefulness, as she hides him away from the Pharaoh's decree to kill all newborn Hebrew boys. Moses' early life is a blend of irony and divine providence, as he's raised in the very palace that orders his people's oppression. He grows up with the privileges of Egyptian royalty, educated in their wisdom and culture. Yet he remains an Israelite in his heart. One day, Moses witnesses an Egyptian taskmaster brutally treating a Hebrew slave. The sight ignites a spark of outrage within him. Acting on impulse, Moses kills the Egyptian, a pivotal act that forces him to flee from the life he knows in Egypt. He escapes to the land of Midian, a fugitive in a foreign land. There he marries and starts a new life as a shepherd, far removed from the grandeur of Pharaoh's court. Yet in the quiet solitude of the desert, Moses is never truly free from the memory of his people's suffering. The plight of the Israelites isn't a mere backdrop to Moses' story. It's a persistent drumbeat that echoes in his soul, a constant reminder of the injustice his people endure. No matter how far he flees, he can't escape the cries of his brethren in Egypt. The stage is now set for a divine intervention. The memory of his people's suffering continues to haunt Moses, propelling him towards a destiny that he's yet to fully comprehend. Their plight becomes his calling, their cries for freedom his mandate, but the plight of his people never leaves Moses, setting the stage for a divine intervention. In the wilderness of Midian, Moses encounters a sight that changes his life forever. As he was tending his father-in-law's flock, he witnesses an extraordinary phenomenon. A bush, ablaze but not consumed by the fire. This is no ordinary sight, and it's here that God chooses to make his presence known. From within the flames, God calls out to Moses. Startled, Moses is commanded not to approach any further and to remove his sandals, for he stands on holy ground. This is the first of many encounters Moses would have with the divine, a testament to his chosen role as a conduit between God and his people. It's from this burning bush that God reveals himself to Moses. He introduces himself as the God of his forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, confirming the continuity of the covenant. Moses hides his face, overcome by fear and reverence. He is in the presence of the divine, the creator of the universe and the God of his ancestors. God then reveals to Moses his name, Yahweh, often translated as I am who I am. This name is more than a label, it's an assertion of God's eternal existence, his unchanging nature, and his commitment to his people. With this revelation, God doesn't just share his name, he shares his character, his essence. And now, with the divine name revealed, comes the divine command. God instructs Moses to go to Pharaoh and demand the freedom of the Israelites. Moses is hesitant, unsure of his ability to undertake such a monumental task, but God assures him of his presence and support, promising him that he will not undertake this task alone. Moses is given signs to perform, proof of his divine appointment. He's equipped with a staff that can turn into a serpent, and the ability to turn his hand leprous and back to normal again. These signs are not just for Pharaoh, but also for the Israelites, to assure them of God's intervention. Armed with divine authority, Moses returns to Egypt, determined to free his people. He carries with him the weight of his people's hope, the promise of God, and the power to challenge the might of Pharaoh. Moses, once a prince of Egypt, now returns as a liberator, a prophet, and a leader. The Pharaoh's heart is hardened, and Egypt is subjected to a series of divine retributions. Enter the 10 plagues, a series of calamities sent down by God upon Egypt, each one escalating in severity. Why, you might ask? Well, to convince the Pharaoh to free the Israelites from bondage. First, the waters of Egypt turned into blood, making it undrinkable and killing all the fish. Then, the land was overrun by frogs. Once the frogs died, they were replaced by lice or gnats, depending on interpretations. Wild animals, or possibly flies, followed, causing havoc and destruction. The fifth plague brought disease to the Egyptian livestock. Next, boils and sores plagued the people and animals. Seventh in line was a thunderstorm of hail and fire, a spectacle of divine fury that destroyed crops and livestock. Despite the devastation, Pharaoh's heart remained unyielding, and so God sent locusts to devour what the hail had left behind, turning the day into darkness for 3 days. Yet the Pharaoh's stubbornness persisted. The final and most devastating plague was the death of all the firstborn in Egypt, from the offspring of Pharaoh to the offspring of the slave girl, and all the firstborn of the cattle as well. A grim night indeed. But the Israelite homes were passed over, their doors marked by lamb's blood as instructed by God. This last plague was the breaking point. Pharaoh finally could bear no more. His own son had been claimed by the plague, and his kingdom was in ruins. With a shattered spirit and a kingdom on its knees, Pharaoh relented. The Israelites, who had been held captive for generations, were finally granted their freedom. Their liberation was not just a political event, but a divine intervention, a testament of God's power and mercy. With a heavy heart, Pharaoh finally relents, and the Exodus begins. The journey through the wilderness is fraught with trials, but it leads to a pivotal moment in Israelite history. After the miraculous crossing of the Red Sea, the Israelites find themselves wandering through a desolate wilderness. Yet even in this harsh environment, they are not alone. God is with them, providing for their every need. Just imagine, every morning, they wake up to find the ground covered in a flaky substance they call manna. It's a strange and heavenly food, just enough to sustain them each day. And when they long for meat, flocks of quails miraculously appear at dusk, ready to be caught and cooked. It's a stark reminder that even in the wilderness, God's provisions are never far away. But the journey isn't just about physical sustenance, it's also a spiritual journey. The Israelites come to Mount Sinai, a place shrouded in smoke and thunder, filled with the power and presence of God. Here, the Israelites receive the Ten Commandments, a divine set of laws delivered through Moses. These aren't just rules, they're a way of life, a blueprint for living in harmony with God and each other. It's a profound moment that transforms a group of escaped slaves into a nation under God. The commandments are more than just laws, they're a covenant, an agreement between God and the Israelites. God promises to be their God, to protect and guide them. In return, the Israelites promise to follow God's laws, to be his people. It's a relationship based on mutual commitment and trust. The Sinai covenant isn't just about rules and regulations, it's about a relationship, a partnership between God and his people. It's about faith, trust, and obedience. It's about finding purpose and identity in the midst of the wilderness. It's about becoming a people of God. The covenant at Sinai marks a defining moment in the relationship between God and his people. Even with divine guidance, the Israelites falter in their faith. As Moses ascends Mount Sinai to commune with God, the Israelites, left to their own devices, fall into idolatry. They melt their jewelry to fashion a golden calf, a symbol of the gods they knew in Egypt. Upon witnessing this blatant disregard for his commandments, God's wrath is kindled. He contemplates destroying the Israelites and starting anew with Moses. Yet, Moses intercedes on behalf of his people. He pleads with God, reminding him of the promises made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Moses' intercession is successful, and God relents from his anger. This incident serves as a poignant reminder of human frailty and the power of intercessory prayer. But the story doesn't end there. God commands the Israelites to construct a tabernacle, a portable sanctuary where he will dwell among them. This tabernacle, adorned with gold, silver, and precious stones, becomes a physical representation of God's presence. Here, the divine and the human intersect, and the Israelites are reminded of their covenant with God. The incident of the golden calf and the subsequent construction of the tabernacle highlight the Israelites' struggle with faithfulness. They oscillate between disobedience and repentance, yet God's patience and mercy remain steadfast. In spite of their failures, God remains with his people, guiding them in their journey.